10 years ago, we did a curriculum revamp. We really tore apart our visual arts curriculum K through 12 and rewrote a sequential curriculum that also had the studio habits of mind as its kind of backbone. We worked hard at this document and we lived it, and in fact the entire visual arts staff was part of that rewriting the curriculum. One of the things that we came out of the many positive things, we had a suggestion that a visual arts liaison would be an important part to reach students and support faculty. One of the things, like in all schools, the issue is time and money. So how are we going to get around the lack of money and, quite frankly, the lack of time, as all good teachers are very busy. So we wanted to start small. We wanted to begin to reach out to teachers in other disciplines. We kind of earmarked a few potential teachers that we thought would be open to this idea.
As a teacher, I feel very passionately that, you know, the more connections that we can make, the better between all of our subject areas, and because in reality, in the workplace, it's not going to be so specific to geography or so specific to art or so specific to math. It's going to be a melding of all of those. It's so relevant now to be teaching kids about the world that they live in and the different cultures of the world, and how there's beauty in that diversity and tolerance and having empathy for other cultures and learning about the complexities of different current events and being able to bring that into the classroom and make that have the world make a little bit more sense. So it was during my Middle East unit, and one of the things that I like to use when I teach current events is political cartoons as a way to show a different perspective on a current event issue. So we use political cartoons all the time in class. We look at it and say, what's the point of view of this one? What is this person saying about the current event? And it kind of morphed. I saw how much the kids loved them. They loved looking at them. And it kind of morphed into the kids started asking, like, I kind of want to do one. And so it became this really great extension that I decided to do as they were researching their current events, that had them split up into groups. Each group was doing a current event, and I asked each kid to create a political cartoon showing their opinion on that current event through the medium of a political cartoon.
Karen and I actually started working on a master artist unit with some of our Spanish students, and we focused on a master artist from Latin America and a master artist from Spain.
We thought it would be really great for the students to reproduce the art. So I had always wanted to do it, and Melissa had experience before doing a grid technique. And so we decided to take it on ourselves, and we had done a Diego Rivera. And the kids were using crayons, and it came out pretty well. And then we were on to Picasso. And as Melissa said, it just kind of happened organically. I mentioned to Ginger that we are going to reproduce a Picasso with charcoal. And she asked, well, where? And I said, upstairs. And she could imagine charcoal and dust through the carpet, and she said, why don't you come on down to the art room? Well, it really made a huge difference. It has been a fantastic experience, the kids coming down to the art room. Just going from the painting, not only the medium we chose, the kids using crayons, to now Ginger introduced the oil pastels. Mm-hmm. And she knew what the kids were capable of. So I think that's something else we really gained from the experience. We're language teachers, but she's an art teacher. So by bringing them to the art room and a space they're familiar with, it was sort of that environment itself created that sort of those creative juices and the expectation. And then Ginger has had these kids since 6th grade. So she knows their strengths, she knows what they're capable of, she knows what they've learned. So all of a sudden they're able to apply that grid techniques, which they had done once before. And they learned about Picasso in 6th grade, so they brought it back to 8th grade. And then, I mean, I didn't know how hard to push the kids.
Getting the kids to collaborate on putting the pieces of the puzzle together and making sure they use the right blending techniques, and she gave us advice on what materials to use and how even to divide up the painting, which was like actually very hard for us to do. We would stand for a while standing at the painting wondering, all right, how do we divide this? So Ginger sort of streamlined the whole process and made it logistically easier and so much richer for us and the students.
So when I started this project, this was just me scrounging around materials I had and using my art knowledge, which is zilch, and having my students present these books to Tiger Tots because they will learn by teaching. And they made books which were okay, and they were received fairly well by the Tiger Tots, but they weren't beautiful. They weren't something that the Tiger Tots could look at and say, wow, these are beautiful. They weren't telling the stories as well as they ought to. They were not, the kids' effort was diffuse. It was not focused. Chasing Constellations is a couple of students who were very interested in mythology and not so much interested in the science. But they were able to use their interest in mythology to get into the constellations, and then having art add this other layer to it where they were all of a sudden, I don't know the art words for it. I did listen to you, placing figures on the page so that they told a story, so that they were dynamic and not static, and thinking about scale and color, so that my students really had to think about the story, then to have a different perspective, to have someone asking questions that I hadn't thought to ask, because artists look at things differently, I think, by definition. The class woke up when we had liaison, and all of a sudden the kids who weren't great at science, didn't really love science, woke up, because this is another modality and they are good in it, they love it, they find interest. So they woke up. The kids who already were doing well were even more challenged.
That you can integrate cross disciplines, you have a deeper, more meaningful connection with students. I think if you don't do that, you're isolated in silos and they don't see the connect. So we're trying to make deeper, more meaningful connections and minimize our disconnections.
About a year and a half ago on Stephen Colbert, I saw Lin-Manuel was a guest and he talked about his play. And from that moment, I was just hooked. And first of all, I bought the book about Hamilton's life, read/audio listened to this over the spring. And then I just couldn't get enough. So then I bought this companion piece, which is, of course, the making of the play. And that just crystallized for me that this story could be told as an art form. Yeah, and then from there, yeah, they were able to choose the part that was the most interesting for them, and then choose to do any type of artwork that they wanted.
I am Ellie, and I'm doing the 1800 fashion of Hamilton. So this is the under petticoat, and then I'm using this doll as a mannequin, and these are the underskirts, and then the corset. So then this will be, I think, the shadow, is that what it's called? And then this will be gathered under, so this is the under petticoat. So, and there's a bunch more layers.
Hi, my name's Garrett, and we're doing this Hamilton project. And as you can see here, I'm doing a political cartoon. And Charlie's over here. We're working together, and he's doing a practically 3D model of the duel. He's doing the guns, and I'm doing the political cartoon. And what we wanted to add or include was right here, Burr, we kind of felt like he had a bigger gun, and maybe he cheated somehow, we don't know. And Hamilton had a little gun, and it was called Lil Bear. So we're gonna shoot a duel. That's the size difference. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Hi, I'm Avi.
I'm Jenny.
And
Seventh grade.
we're 7th graders, yeah. And we did this art project, and it was about Alexander Hamilton. And we had to choose a snippet of the story, and we decided to do a performing art instead of physical art, because
They're both arts. So
yeah, they're both
counts.
arts, but yeah, and then we both like music and stuff, so we decided to do a performing arts and decided to do a wall.
Opportunity to do multimodal forms of assessment or multimodal learning opportunities, it feeds a different part of their brain and gets them thinking about traditional humanities or language arts concepts in a way that is outside the box. And when I bring them back to do writing about the same concepts, they're ready to look at it from a fresh perspective. So instead of just assigning an essay, we said, okay, we understand what an archetype is, we understand what a theme is, we understand what symbolism is. How can we use those traditional language arts concepts and then show that we understand them using this multimodal product? And the sculptures that the kids produced demonstrated a really rich understanding of those core concepts. And then later, when they had to write about it on the MCAS for a long composition, all of them knocked it out of the park and maintained or retained that understanding deeply and richly in their writing.
I'm brought back to a moment of sitting at the table with two of our male students who were not as comfortable in that space in your room, and they were really struggling with the weaving. That was something that a number of students had a really difficult time with, and so I feel like that was an exercise in perseverance, because they did all create a product, but they sometimes had to rip it all up and start over again. And
I like that it was grounded in the concrete, because so often with literature, teaching literature, you're dealing in the abstract, and a lot of kids, especially the level of kids that we're working with in this case, where they struggle with what is a theme and how do I express it, or what is a symbol and how do I analyze it, or what's an archetype and how can I codify that, and to give them the opportunity to make a physical representation of an abstract that was their choice, that they interpreted in their own artistic vision, was a powerful way to get something from the text to a physical object. And instead of just the written word, it was made real in a way that was unique and special to them in a physical manifestation that they could show up at the end.
I think that part of that response in the book is this project that I do think they may not admit it, but they felt a great deal of pride in what they created, and having that opportunity to share it with our principal, with our superintendent, with a number of other adults from the school, and have it admired and appreciated by many. And that's not an experience that many of these students have in the academic.
Little baby steps is the big question, and it's the challenge. And again, it's that time and that money that it will take to do that. So just a few brainstorming ideas that the visual arts staff was looking at was, what about developing, just to start easily, a .2 position, and that would be, technically it could be one day where a visual arts teacher would be available to work across disciplines. We have a visual arts teacher who's doing it in our middle school level. We have visual arts teachers that are doing it also in our high school level. Our goal would be to have a visual liaison person, a position, a full-time position. That could be broken up between all of our art teachers as part of their job, maybe .2 for all of our art teachers to coordinate based on their strengths. So we could possibly develop within each teacher a specific strength that they'd be comfortable with in other disciplines. But reaching out, celebrating the successes that we've already had has been a really important part for us in developing the need, getting other faculty members outside of the visual arts to express that need and to also demonstrate the success they've had in coordinating curriculum. That visual literacy part is the thing that will take us through all learning disciplines and really develop a 21st century curriculum for all of us. Art, for art's sake, is what we live for here as visual arts people, but also we want our students to be creative, to be able to express themselves in all areas, and I think that's what this visual arts liaison would do for us.